So I grew up son of a contractor. Dad ran his own construction company, and my brother and I were his cheap labor, always available. Worked our asses off every summer in Florida, and he did homes, subdivisions, office parks, but he leveraged everything out. So when the economy went bad, recessions, we had to retreat. We had to rebuild. So for decades, we were very attuned to, economy, marketing, building, high impact, high stakes entrepreneurships. We were a family business. We were a business family. Now, I love my daddy, but I did not want to work in Florida summer outdoors. Winter's cold, it rains. I wanted an air conditioning job. So, civil engineering was a direct, logical extension of a construction upbringing. My first job was a 3-person company that we did survey, we did land development design for shopping centers and subdivisions. Did everything. It was great. It was great equipment, Autodesk and DCA software, but great elite set too for the total station. Everything we did had a direct impact on everything. So, we would speed to the airport with FedEx tubes to get it on the Delta Dash. When the economy was shrinking, the boss said, hey, get on the phone, hit the yellow pages, call developers, find work. So, that was my first 3 years out of school, and it was the foundation for... I don't know if I was impatient beforehand, but we were always rushing, and so time became a really critical thing, and being efficient became really important then. But that was a great first job. So with that background, it was inevitable that I would found my own company. It was just inevitable. Started off rather easily. I had some contacts with my family at Intergraph, whom I'd recently left, and they're like, hey, San Diego needs some help. You want to go? It was like a 3-month contract. It's like, San Diego, you bet. It turned into 5 years there, but it was integrating. So San Diego had a waiver from the EPA not to do secondary treatment. They were doing advanced primary, and EPA said, okay, you got to take your GIS system and integrate it with the analysis software, and that was InSewer. You got to integrate those, and that was part of the project. The other part of the project was to develop the training for the primarily InSewer implementation, and that was the largest InSewer implementation in North America, in the world at the time. So that was the first job. So it was wonderful and great people. That lasted about 5 years. Eventually, I got stuck at and I was doing, multiple storm and sanitary implementations, inflow and sewer, inroads. But we stopped in developing training, and it was like, we stopped at the city. The charter was for only the city. And I'm like, hey, we are developing training. That's pretty good. It is, we just need to change it up, add about 10% more work, and we can sell it globally. And the boss said, hey, it's not in our charter. And I said, it's kind of in mine. And then I started my own company. And that was instead of a single client, I knew I had to come up with a business plan. It was the global market. So I had to come up with a business plan. I had a pretty good idea what I wanted to do. Just general training for inroads, storm and sanitary. And that would be at that time, you couldn't just get training material from Bentley or Intergraph. You had to take the full classes. I was like, all right, I will sell the training material. I will train. That was the plan. Developed the training, marketed it, delivered it, and that was great. It led up to, with connections, and I was migrating Oklahoma DOT. So from the city level of migrating software to the Department of Transportation, the state level, it was a great move, and really enjoyable. And the reason I stopped is I was at that point, to deliver training, you had to do it in person, and I started a family, had a kid, and didn't want to wear both hats all the hats of running your own business and doing that while trying to be a parent. How do you scale up when you're already addressing the global market? Resources. I got a call from Bentley, and how would you like to develop inroads training for us full time? For us, for the vendor. It's like, wow. I didn't refuse. I couldn't refuse. It was a great opportunity, and I loved it. I got to, instead of wearing all these hats of being self-employed, I got to do the core of what I loved doing, which was developing training for inroads at the time, later open roads. And the attitude there is innovation at the systems level. It's the enterprise level, the municipality level, the state level, multinational level. Innovate. The whole workforce there is they love to solve problems. They love to help people. Still, my favorite family I've worked with. There's a joy there. That's awesome. Okay. I loved being there. But after about a decade, I started getting antsy because it's one thing to know, it's another thing to do, and so I felt like I was teaching at a war college, and war had changed quite a bit since I had left the battlefield, so to speak, and I really needed to get back into talking with customers instead of just developing training. So I was able to spend some time, doing some training, and I really enjoyed some of the last things I did was working with the design teams, the design leads at various DOTs, Virginia, Texas, Oregon, Washington, Alabama. I really enjoyed working at that high level, helping people plan at the high level what they were going to do, how the software could do what they wanted to do. That was great. I really enjoyed working there, but ultimately, I wanted to get back into the mix of things. Wanted to have more control, more opportunity. So, confession here, and maybe not a good one to broadcast, but nonetheless, the one thing I learned about being back in production on these big projects, and it was kind of hinted at before I joined Bentley too, when I was working with Caltrans. I'm not really a production engineer anymore. I thought that was my identity, but it's really not. The challenge I have with projects is you really have to marry the project. The engineering principles are universal. The software applications for it can be universal, but success in a project means really knowing your clients and your clients' agencies and all the labyrinth of constraints that are specific and local to that project. Okay, and you have to have connection. You really have to be really familiar with the details of it, and there's no way around that other than, I suppose, you can do some good documentation of these projects, project manager, someone just saying, here's all the constraints, and I've seen attempts at it, but it's really difficult. The reality is there's so many constraints, you really have to marry the project. And frankly, I bristle at having to stop. And, I want what I learn to be spread as wide as possible. I want to make an impact beyond just the project. And the challenge with especially design build or any of these really highly competitive projects is you don't have budget to spend the time, even though a lot of agencies, a lot of corporations will say, yeah, we're about innovation. They don't fund the innovation. They fund the project. Projects in trouble do not have budget for documenting, for sharing. Are there overhead accounts that allow you to spend the time spreading the information, to proactively going out and making sure that everybody who uses the software, who will run into the problems, who are going to be challenged, who face risk, unless there's an overhead availability and the ability to pull back from the deadline, it's really difficult to be proactive. And that I want to scale what I learn as broadly as I can, and I can't do that being married to a project. So, confession, I am not a project engineer anymore. I'm a process guy. I'm a systems guy. I like to believe that I'm an innovator. I want to share that, and that's where I need to be. That's where I want to be. So, over the course of the career, the stuff I've enjoyed the most are the things that you uniquely know how to do. I started 25 years ago with fundamental training, and I can still do that. And I wrote training manuals for decades. Yeah, it's been decades. I can do that again. What I want to focus on, because I enjoy it, and a number of reasons. One, I enjoy it. Two, it makes a better impact, a bigger impact. And three, it's the growth market. It's, just gave advice to my son. Pick something that's a growth market. He's off in school. Growth market. Don't get into a static industry, because, the growth is good. And as an entrepreneur or as a business, it's like grow or die. So there's a lot of good reasons to be really proactive to drive innovation, and that is, it starts as something as simple as item types and open roads, but open roads, extending that into the greater life cycle, the asset management for the owner-operators. That's where the money is. That's where the growth is in the designing field. It's really where I want to be. I'm driven to do it. There's so many reasons why it is where I want to be. It's inevitable. It's just a matter at this point, with whom and for whom.